So today we're going to take a look at the two different kits of the Macross herself. The SDF-1, the Superdimensional Fortress, the battleship Macross. Now, I'm going to do a very brief rundown of the opening to the show and the movie to explain exactly what the Macross is. In 1999, an alien ship crash-landed on Earth. It was discovered and repaired and rebuilt by humans as their first interplanetary starship, essentially. In the very beginning of the series, the episode called Booby Trap, an alien race called the Zentradi discover Earth by tracking the Macross. And the Macross itself, having a defense weapon, an automatic defense weapon, fires an energy blast through space, actually partially through the Earth, and destroys these enemy ships. And then the crew are forced to depart. They try to launch the ship and accidentally warp through space to the other side of the solar system, taking half the island that it was sitting on with it, and along with all of its residents, and a couple of battleships in the local area, an aircraft carrier and a personnel carrier vehicle. But over the 10 years or so that the Macross was being studied, all of humanity's technology just shot forward. This new technology from this alien race, they were able to learn and decipher and understand quickly enough that they were able to develop the Valkyries. And they understood that the foe that they might be facing that built this ship, because they were 30 feet tall, they figured the best way to fight them would be to make 30-foot tall robots. And because the transforming robot craze had just started catching on in Japan, they made them able to transform into jets. Because that makes sense, because #Japan is weird. But regardless, it made for a really cool concept for a show. Jets that turn into jets with arms and legs that turn into robots. Spaceships that are a mile long that turn into robots that are a mile tall. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's kind of amazing. But anyway, so with the ship stranded in space around Pluto, they had to do some emergency repairs and draft a lot of civilians to be pilots. And the Macross herself ended up adapting the aircraft carrier and the personnel carrier into its own structure as part of it. So we're going to take a look at the two kits of the Macross. We're going to start with the version from the TV series in battleship mode, and then we're going to move on to the Macross as it appeared in the movie in Do You Remember Love, which, as I explained in the last video, was an adaptation of the series, which, if I'm not mistaken, in canon is actually... It's a fictional retelling of the Macross story within the universe, so it is a movie within the show. So, the Macross itself got a redesign. Instead of having the aircraft carrier and the armored personnel carrier as adapted components, they were always part of the ship from the beginning. When it converts to robot mode, where the aircraft carrier formed the right arm, I think, and the personnel carrier formed the left arm, these components simply, they resembled aircraft carriers or whatever, but they were always part of the ship from the beginning, and they were a little more symmetrical. But overall, the design, the shape and the proportions and the size and whatever are all basically the same, but the colors are a bit different, the details are a bit different. Overall, it's just more detailed. So I'm eager to crack these open and take a look at them. So yeah, we're going to start off with the TV series version, which is in battleship mode, before we move on to the movie version in I want to call this Storm Attacker mode. I'm really not sure. I've read that someplace. I'm not sure if that's what it's actually called, or if I'm just making up words because I tend to do that. Yeah, so let's take a look at them. So those are not small boxes. Those are comparable in size to a typical Master Grade Gundam kit, about 10 inches wide by probably about 15 inches tall, and about 4 inches deep. Both boxes are the same size, except obviously one is portrait, one is landscape. They have gorgeous artwork on the cover, much like all the other ones, illustrated by Hidetaka Tenjin. Copyright dates, this one says 1984, Big West, that was the date of release and the production company for the film, whereas the other one says 1982, which was the year of production of the series. So we're going to start off with the TV series version with Prometheus and Daedalus, those being the aircraft carrier and the personnel carrier vessels, which were adapted into the ship's design. Now, you can kind of get a grasp of just how big this ship is when you realize that that is a Valkyrie launching from the deck. This is a full-sized 1,000-foot aircraft carrier. The rest of the ship is about 2.5 times longer than that in battleship mode, in the more compact form. So, yeah, not a small vessel. Box bottom, as is typical, has some photos of the completed model. Looks like you can detach the Prometheus and Daedalus if you like to. It includes a couple of in-scale Valkyries that you can mount on the deck. A lot of detail, some antenna work, nice work on the thrusters back there. And box top has just some stills from the series. Yeah, you'll really be able to get a grasp of just how different the animation between the TV series and the movie is just from these stills, because they just look so radically different. We'll start things off with the display stand. Nice round, angled, it's got a bit of a texture to it. Strut has a mounting point to it and 4-point ratcheting support that is not in here. I guess it's on another runner. I'm guessing these are engine housings. There's actually 2 of this runner. These look like they're probably the engine housings for the rear of the ship, which become the feet in attack mode. Not sure. Oh, didn't expect that. There's a polycap set. This one has a lot more ball joints than the Valkyries did. A couple of big sockets, a couple smaller sockets, a couple of big balls, and lots of simple hinges, 2-point, 2-axis hinges, single-axis hinges, swivels, etc. And some structural bulkheads, I'm guessing. Probably some more structural stuff. Antennas, probably. Cannons. It's probably more. Oh, that's probably one of the in-scale. It's not a Valkyrie, but it's probably a one of the Destroids, which is. They're kind of like Ed 209 from RoboCop. They're like little bipedal mobile weapons that don't transform. Basically, little weapons platforms that are piloted. But some nice detail in there. That actually looks really, really good. I don't know how well you can make that out. I don't have the best lighting in here, unfortunately, but yeah, lots of really nice fine detail. Some dry brushing will really bring that out. And a second duplicate of that runner. Okay, we got some clear parts. We got the rest of the stand here. I guess this just slots into the black base, and the hinge portion is not actually used. This is the Macross logo. I'm not sure. I guess it fits into this gap and mounts onto the stand so that you kind of have the view of the Macross logo from the front. It's kind of interesting. You got lots of windows and other clear parts. All very, very tiny. I don't know, at this scale I kind of would prefer that they leave the clear parts out, because you just end up with that, the frame around the windows is so thick that the actual transparent portion in the center is just so tiny. So, I don't know, it kind of ruins the scale effect for me. Yeah, when you make them hollow from behind, yeah, it just kind of ruins the scale effect. Okay, more weapons. Twin cannons, smaller triple cannons. Guessing probably the chest-mounted missile launchers, where would be the chest on the attack mode. Large blasters. These would go on the shoulders. Not sure if maybe these are engine housings for the back. These would be the inserts, I think. The actual shoulders, not sure what those struts are. Probably for the main cannon. And another identical copy of that runner. A couple more identical runners. Main engines, main engine housings. These would probably be, these would be for the chest. These would be the engine thrusters that go in the chest in attack mode. I'm not sure where they end up in battleship mode, but those are some nice looking engine bells at this scale. Some really fine ribbing detail in there. And the back mounting plate, that'll look really nice with a little bit of dry brushing and a simple wash. The front end, the bow of the ship, which is also the main cannon. Kind of surprised this one doesn't appear to have the ability to split and deploy the cannon as though it's firing. There might be more parts in the box. I'm not really sure, but yeah, from here it looks like it's just static. Because the two booms, you can see there's this seam line between here that would split in half, and it fires a massive energy burst. That was the titular booby trap from the first episode of the series. When it detects an enemy, it fires automatically, and the effect in the series is actually really, really cool, because it fires through the planet, at least in part, because it's aimed slightly down and it fires like through the ocean and comes out the other side. It's really neat. But yeah, so this is the bottom part. This is the upper deck. Side panels is probably part of the front behind the cannon. Guessing part of the bridge. That looks like kind of the vaguely head-shaped bridge, plus some antennas for it. You got the aircraft carrier, the Prometheus, which forms the right arm of the ship. So you got the deck, you got your 4 launch catapults, you've got your landing deck. Has a peg on the back that will allow it to dock with the arm of the Macross. Has the way it's designed, the dropped the flight deck, the way the flight deck drops, plus the kind of aggressive bulge under the bow, kind of gives it the look of like a big 3-fingered claw. It's a really aggressive looking front end for an aircraft carrier. And the left arm being the Daedalus, I call it a personnel carrier. I'm not really sure what you'd actually call it. It's basically a semi-submersible container box that floats and has big doors on the front, so it can like land on the beach and offload massive numbers of troops and or tanks or other mobile weapons. Doesn't have quite the same aggressive front end, but it does have kind of the little prong on the bow, and just a big blunt hatch on the front. Some structural body parts. Some more cannons, but this is the main body of the ship that would form the torso in attack mode. Not sure. Oh, these are all the the fighters, all this 4,000th scale fighter modes. So yeah, take a look how tiny each of those are. Those are about 1 millimeter across, maybe 2.5 millimeters long. And the way they're attached, that's really kind of weird. So I don't know, I guess you'd go in there with like a chisel blade, just slice them off from underneath, and then glue them to the deck of your ship wherever you do that. But yeah, there's 8 with wings folded, 8 with wings deployed. And these appear to have the super parts. Oh, and yeah, these ones appear to have the super parts mounted. Can't really tell, but you can kind of see 2 raised lines on the spine of the fighter. But yeah, since a lot of this is exterior stuff, rather than structural internal detail, you can see there's a lot of panel lines on here, a lot of hatches, a lot of neat detail. Main body, there's some neat venting, ribbing along here. That's kind of cool. And last up, we got our only runner that's not in that kind of neutral gray. And I'm guessing most of these are leg parts, where the legs would be in attack mode, again. So probably the bottom side of the legs, probably the top side of the legs, and then the side of each leg, or these might be the top, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what any of the rest of it is, but yeah. Neat detail, though. I like the kind of conduits and look like maybe some pressure vessels inside fuel tanks or something. Some thruster detail on a couple of pieces. More thrusters here, and yeah, lots of neat panel lines all along there. So, pretty limited decal set, just got some red stripes, yellow, white stripes, SDF-1 Macross logo for the base, not much else. At this scale, there'd be no visible printing anywhere on the ship. But, and instructions, same as always, black and white, Japanese printing, can't read any of it. Assembly starts with a couple of the little Destroid machines. Explains how to, yeah, like I said, you go in there underneath with a chisel blade, you slice them off, and you do a little bit of light detail painting. Assembly of the ship itself begins with the main cannon. Adds on some detail parts. A few spots where you got to drill out with the pin vise. Then moves into the main body of the ship. Assembly of the body and cannon to each other. Engine boxes. Some polycaps. I guess that's to attach the Daedalus and the Prometheus to the arms. Shoulders with the big blaster cannons. Assembly of the feet and thrusters. Overall assembly of the legs. Yeah, those 4 components on the darker greenish gray runner were the legs, and then there's 2 bulkheads to kind of shore them up so they're a little sturdier. And lots of detail parts to add on, so that's pretty cool. That's going to be really neat. Structural spars to support the legs mounting to the main body. No articulation to speak of on this one, but it'll no articulation, it looks like, to speak of on this one, except for, I guess, with the way where the Prometheus and the Daedalus attach to it. Yeah, so here's the assembly of the Prometheus herself, and then the Daedalus, and mounting them to the main body. It looks like you can choose to display without them at all, so you could leave this not just the aircraft carrier or the personnel carrier, but like the mounting points, you could leave them off as well. So you would just have just the ship, which is an interesting way to do it. And your marking and painting guide. Not nearly as complicated as your Valkyries are, but still looks pretty neat. There's a lot of weird colors on these, so it'll be interesting to paint and try to decipher how to mask everything off. Incidentally, I'm not sure if I mentioned this when I did the VF-1 48 scale, but the color guide is printed entirely in Japanese, so that's a huge bummer. Because these do not represent Tamiya colors, which are the paints that I have access to. I think they're probably using Gunzi, which I do not have access to and have never used. So, yeah, deciphering this is going to be challenging.